Good afternoon. Thank you for tuning in to Journey to Wholeness Radio on IntellectualRadio.com. I am this afternoon's host, KJ Davis, founder and owner of the Journey to Wholeness Center, and I'd like to thank you all for tuning in this afternoon. So today we have an interesting show, and I know I say that every week because I think that every week we have an interesting show. So today's show, what we're going to talk about is something that impacts every single person on the planet, that thing called ego. So today's topic is going to be taming of the ego. So before I begin, I want to share with you a old Native American parable. And in this parable, it really gives a good description, or rather a good depiction of what it means when we stay in a place or a constant state of ego. So a grandfather is talking with his grandson, and he says that there are only two wolves inside of us, which are always at war with each other. One of them is a good wolf, which represents things like kindness, bravery, and love. The other is a bad wolf, which represents things like greed, hatred, and fear. The grandson stops and thinks about it for a second. Then he looks up at his grandfather and says, "Grandfather, which one wins?" The grandfather quietly replies, "The one you feed." Okay? So when we talk about ego, first we need to really understand what it means to be in a place of ego, to live in a constant state of ego. Then we need to understand when, or be conscious of when we're acting and reacting and making decisions from a place of ego versus love. We also need to understand why it's not favorable to always be in a place of ego, because ego, being in a place of ego, really keeps us in a place of fear. So one of the things that we connect ego to and oftentimes is fear, being in a place of fear, and the ego is there to protect it. So we're also going to talk about what we can do in order to be conscious that this ego is persisting within us. How do we transmute it and bring it to the middle, to stay in a place of balance where we're not constantly living out our lives and making decisions from a place of ego or fear versus a place of spirit and love? So that's what we're going to talk about today. And once again, the reason why I love this parable so is because that is the truth, the one that you feed, the one that you nurture, the one that you inspire, the one that you give your energy to. The wolf that you give your energy to is the one that's going to win. Okay? So let's talk about ego. So ego is thrown around a lot when we talk about others, and she has a big ego, and we talk about how people are in a place of fear, and we associate that with ego. But what really is ego? So the ego is defined as the I, the self, the form that separates us from all other forms. This is how we define our conscious selves, what we show to the world, the face we show to the world. We define that via our ego. However, through the ego, duality is created. So this is where we actually begin to separate ourselves from God, from others, and from the true essence of our spiritual being. So this is where separatism begins and duality begins within the ego. So the ego is an identity of our own construction, an identity which is false. So this is where we get into trouble with ego, is because the ego is not truly who we are. It is our beliefs about who we are, but it's not truly who we are or the essence of who we are. If we take all the beliefs of what we are, beliefs about our personality, our talents, our abilities, we have the structure of our ego. So ego really associates with who we think we are, the face that we show to the world, what makes us individuals or separate, what distinctly separates us from others. So when you identify yourself as, I'm a teacher, I'm a millionaire, I am a Christian, I am a this, I'm a that. When you get into the labels, that really is speaking towards your ego, your I self. Okay. So I did a little research, and one of my favorite spiritual teachers is Deepak Chopra. And Deepak Chopra defines ego as our self-image, not our true self, which is exactly what I just alluded to. It is characterized by labels, masks, images, and judgments. The true self is the field of possibilities. So now you ask, okay, well, if we define our ego as our personality, as who we show and express to the world, and if that's not our true selves, what is or who is our true self? What's in there? So true self is the field of possibilities, creativity, intentions, and power. It is the divine you. It is the spiritual you. The divine you, the spiritual you, is the powerful you. It is the creator that we always talk about. So we can go beyond the ego through self-awareness, awareness of our thoughts, feelings, behaviors, and speech. So in order to go beyond the ego, we have to know that we're acting in a place of ego or in a place of fear. We have to realize when we're not standing in our personal power and acting and reacting from a place of power, of strength, of wisdom, of courage. We have to be conscious that we're even doing that. So thus we begin to slowly move beyond the ego to the true self. So the idea is to be able to rise above that place of ego to truly become the spiritual being that you were meant to become, to truly begin to live out your life's plan and your life's purpose by tapping into that personal power, not into what you see on the outside, but into everything that you see and feel on the inside. So when we think about the ego and the reason why ego and fear are so closely related, the purpose of the ego is to protect. So that is the shield. That's our barrier that allows us to navigate through this world. It's what we create as our identity, is our ego. But there is so much more to us than that external identity. Because that external identity, first of all, is not us. It's what we created to display to the world, but it's not truly who we are at a soul level. And it's also steeped in fear and is limiting. So we must all strive to go beyond ego and truly, truly live in spirit. So I have said an awful lot about defining ego from a technical standpoint of what ego is. So now I'll talk to you about signs that you're operating from a place of ego, because it's one thing to be able to define what ego is and what it's not, but it's another thing to be able to recognize when you yourself are clearly operating from a place of ego. So we go about our everyday lives making decisions and doing things that we think best serve us. But are we making these decisions based upon a level that serves us from an external egocentric standpoint, or are we really doing things that serve us from our spiritual standpoint? Or can we combine the two because that's what it's really about, is dissolving the ego into the spirit, being able to combine the two, because at the end of the day, you are still an individual entity as how you show yourself, but how do you do that as well as stand in your personal power from a spiritual standpoint? So, and we'll talk about that. So the first thing you have to do is really recognize when you're operating from a place of ego, which we do it all the time. So it's almost like checking yourself. It's almost like being conscious and saying, you know what, that's not really how I feel. This person made me feel this way because they bruised my ego. That's not really what I wanted to do or say, but my ego is bruised. I really need something or someone to make me feel good. My ego needs to feel good. So let me go over with you 5 signs that you are operating from a place of ego. The first one, and all of us, do not get me wrong, I'm not trying to say that some people are better than other people at taming their egos. All I'm trying to do is educate you on how to be conscious when it shows up, because if you're conscious when you are operating in a place of ego, if you're conscious that you're doing it, then you can make a different decision. Then you can say, that's not really how I feel. I'm operating from a place of ego. You can identify what it is that you need that you're not getting to be able to stop those feelings. You know, maybe it is that you're not getting enough sleep. Maybe you're not eating right. Maybe you're not loving yourself or not feeling loved. And therefore, you have this wall up or this defense mechanism up that blocks you and protects you, where you're in a place of solely in a place of ego. Okay? 5 signs that you are operating from ego. First of all, you seek and revel in approval from others. Okay? How many of us are like that? I'm raising my hand because sometimes I am like that. You know, sometimes did I do this right? Did I do that right? And what I'm looking for is, or how did you enjoy this class? Or how did you, and what I'm looking for is validation. I'm looking for approval. So that is the egoic part of me that needs that validation and approval, because the spiritual side of me already has it. Okay? The spiritual side of me is divine, is perfect, no matter what happens. It is divine, it is love, it is perfect. And that's at the very, very base of our spiritual side. But it takes a lot of work for us to stay in that place of always feeling that no matter what happens, it's perfect, it's good, it's God, it's love. It takes a lot of work to stay in that place. So you have this place of spirituality, where spirit is all there is. That is the only thing that is real, is spirit and love. And then you have this place where you feel completely separated from spirit and love, which is the duality, which is the ego on this side. And they constantly battle. So there are times when the ego wins and you spend so much time over here in an ego state of mind that you can't even get to your spiritual side. And then there are some people who are very, very spiritual and just stay in a state of complete la-la land. I call it like la-la land and bliss. And, however, the reason why we're here on this planet is to have a human experience. So yes, we are truly spiritual beings. So if you're on the la-la side and you're just always spiritual and you're always in tune to life and to nature and to that is wonderful. But sometimes people who are too far on that side are not in tune with what's going on in the real world, and they tend to have problems paying bills. And so there has to be a combination of the two and a balance of the two, and that is the true essence of ourselves. So I was talking about you seek and revel in approval from others. So some examples of that: you look for compliments. You go fishing. We talk about people who are fishing, always fishing for compliments. You're a beautiful woman, or you're a handsome man, but you always want people to tell you. Or, oh, this person didn't notice my haircut. Oh, this person didn't notice my outfit. So that's ego. That's working from a place of ego. If you're a person who is constantly a people pleaser, where everything that you do, you want to make sure that it's being accepted, appreciated, enjoyed by someone else. Okay. The whole social media thing. How many social media likes do you have? Every time I put up a picture, are you going back and checking the likes and seeing if somebody likes it? Please, I hope somebody likes it. I hope somebody likes my radio show. I hope somebody likes my business page. I hope somebody likes my topic today. So all of those things, when I have all of those thoughts, all of those things come from a place of ego. It comes from a place of wanting and needing to be successful, wanting and needing to be validated. But Spirit says, you're already successful. You're already validated. You don't need these things to make you successful or validated. You are powerful, you are whole. So that's the conversation, that when you find yourself too much in that state of just constantly needing approval and validation, and you see yourself doing it, you're conscious about doing it, that's when you can just stop and say, I am love, I am peace, I am whole. And that's it. And that's even a meditation. There's a meditation, an I am meditation, that you can begin to employ in your life when you're feeling like you cannot escape that ego part of you that needs validation. Then you can go to your spiritual self and say all of the things that you are. I am love, I am powerful, I am joy, I am wise, I am unlimited. So those are some of the things that you can do when you find that you're operating in a place of ego. But some of us do it so often, and it's part of our everyday lives, that we don't even realize that it's our ego that's acting out and not us. So that's the first thing, first sign that you are operating from a place of ego. The second thing is if you identify yourself based upon labels, based upon your wealth, based upon your title, based upon your accomplishments, based upon your organizations, based upon your associations. If you're the type of person, oh, my name is such and such, and I'm a member of the Black MBA Association, or I'm a member of this fraternity and this sorority. My name is such and such, and I make X amount of dollars. If that's part of your, and check yourself, pay attention to your self-talk. Because sometimes when you're meeting people, what is it that you lead with? Hi, my name is such and such, and before the end of the conversation, is this person telling you all about how much money they make, and they make six figures, and they do this, and they drive this type of car, and all of those things are representative of being in a place of ego. And I know all of you have had that experience and are even probably friends like that, where it's always about who they know. Oh yeah, my best friend, he a lawyer. Oh yeah, I was hanging out with my best friend who's a doctor, and yeah, and I make X amount. Yeah, I wrote this book. Yeah, where everything completely revolves around the label that they identify themselves with. That's ego. That is not truly the identity of who they are. And not only that, when there's that steeped in ego, there's a lot of insecurity and fear there, a whole lot of insecurity, that they have to throw out these titles, throw out these labels, throw out I'm driving a Benz and I'm driving a Jaguar, where they got to throw out these things to feel like they have to gain love and acceptance. So that is acting out in a place of ego. So pay attention. If you're conscious that you're doing that and you're starting to listen to yourself, then, take a deep breath, take a break, and think about who you truly are, which has nothing to do with any of those labels or any of those things. So that's the second thing. Number 3. If you judge others that are different from you, you are completely operating in a place of ego. Judgment is ego. People can talk until they blue in the face to say, well, they shouldn't be doing this, or this group of people shouldn't be doing that. That's nothing but a judgment. And if you find yourself judging, you're operating in a place of fear. You're operating in a place of ego. You have some people who think that they've attained a certain amount of education or a certain amount of status that gives them the right to judge others. So if you judge people based upon how they look, based upon their race, based upon their religion, based upon their status in life, it's completely false. It is your ego just acting out. Because here's the deal. You, as I said, you have some people who really think that because they've attained a certain place, or they go to a certain church, or that they have a right to judge others. To judge others in the way, in the decisions that they make, the way they wear their hair, if they're gay or not gay, that, so everybody walks around judging others for whatever reason. So when you find yourself doing that, just stop, because none of us are equipped to judge. It even says in the Bible, but we still do it. None of us are equipped to judge. Judging is ego. It is the one thing that keeps all of us separated from each other. It keeps us separated from God. It keeps us separated from ourselves when we judge. So that is clearly a sign. I don't care what status you are. I don't care what religion you are. You have Christians who judge Buddhists, and Catholics who judge Methodists, and people who have wealth and power who judge people who don't have wealth and power. All of it is just working in a place of ego, and it has to come to an end, because that is truly, truly what keeps us separated from each other, separated from God, and separated from ourselves. So stop the judgments. The judgments are clearly in a place of ego. The third thing, no, that was the third thing, if you judge others. The fourth thing, if material objects and status are of the highest importance to you. Some people work all of their lives for status and material things. If this person is not driving this particular car, they're nobody, they're nothing. Or if you feel you have to drive this particular car, and this is something that I have the biggest issue with, especially in this country, because everything is about money, power, and status. So much so that our young children are even ingrained with it. And it's so difficult, because especially in this country is so egoic. But all about ego, all about status, all about money. And we even teach our children that. And if we don't teach our children that, they're learning it from television. They're learning it from the sports figures. And I can relate to that tremendously, because I have two sons who are athletes, and they're involved in sports, and their whole life revolves around sports and basketball. But they always are looking at which athlete is getting paid the most, which athlete has the biggest contract, which athlete can impress people the most, got the coolest clothes, everything is about ego, money, and status. And we've got to fall back into going to a place of spirit. As I said, spirit being one side of the equation, being the only, I'm going to say the only thing that is really true is love and spirit. But we have to go back to spirit and get back into, who am I? What is it that I'm here to create? What is it that I'm here to experience? And I would guarantee you it has nothing to do with money, power, and status. But it has everything to do with heart, love, and what is it that you're here to create and do and share and experience. And we've gotten so far away from that. We don't even have those conversations with our children, and allowing them to do whatever it is that they want to do. And even if you do have those conversations, they're still looking at the TV. They're still looking at the fancy cars and the fancy houses. And that's what I want. That's what I want. That's what I want. All of that is false. All of that is ego. Okay. So that's number 4. Number 5. The 5th sign that you're operating from a place of ego, if you are a person who feels that there is never enough. I never have enough money. I never have enough time. I never have enough abundance, put it that way. I never have enough. You stay in a place of lack, and you kind of hoard everything you have. You know, I don't want to share, I don't want to give, I don't want to support because it's not enough for me. And that's how this society is too. Is this a society of hoarding, where billionaires feel like they don't have enough. Millionaires, I don't have enough. So we have this, and that's lack, ego, fear, all of that same thing, all of it is attached. So if you are a person who feel like you never have enough, you're operating from a place of ego. Spirit tells us, spirit in our hearts and soul, we know that enough, we are everything. We are infinite. We have everything that we need in that moment. There is no such thing as lack. It truly isn't. And as I said, it takes work to get to that spot, but that's the truth. That is the truth of who you are. There is no lack at the true essence of who you are. But the ego tells you over and over again that there is not enough. Think about our beautiful planet and all of the beautiful, beautiful resources that we have. It's enough, but the way that we allocate those resources are all based on ego. And because it's all based on ego and based on fear and based on control and power and materialism and all those things, there is an illusion that it's not enough. There's this illusion that I always have to be in a place of lack. I always have to be in a place of sacrifice. I never have enough money. I have enough. That really is an illusion. Okay? And when you find yourself in that place, once again, just stop, surrender to God, surrender to all there is, surrender to your spirit, and know that you have enough. Be confident and know that you're right where you're supposed to be, that this is what you created for yourself in this moment to experience, and trust it. And trust it. All right. So those are the 5 signs that you're operating from a place of ego. Okay? So now let's go a little bit deeper and talk about some of the things that we can do to tame the ego. And understanding truly and realizing. So first of all, what I want to say, the ego is not all bad. It's not all bad. Because at the end of the day, there is no judgment. The ego is just the way that we see ourselves as individual entities. That's just the way we see ourselves. That's the way we differentiate ourselves, and that's okay. But it's not the truth of who we are. It's a falsehood. So that realization, that is what we must understand and always hold near and dear to our hearts. Our egos are not who we are. So because this is not who we are, we really have to dig deeper to find out who we are and tame the ego. So what happens when we tame the ego? When we tame the ego, we can really begin to see the truth of not only who we are, but the truth of who everyone is around us. To really understand the dynamics of being a spiritual being and having a human experience. And that takes some work. It takes some trust. We have so many people who are very spiritual or very religious, who go to church, and they say they have faith, but when faith is tested, then they go right back to ego. All right. So when we tame the ego, we live in a place of balance, and this beautiful thing called creation happens. So have you ever noticed that when you can let go of ego and the labels and your fears and your doubts about yourself and truly begin to live in your personal truth, it seems like magic happens. Things just start happening. When you stop focusing on, oh, I can't change this job, or I can't go and be self-employed because I got too many bills and I have this. So when we're able to disassociate from all of the things that the ego tells us that we are and we truly aren't, and we can go within and find the power and the love and the strength that we truly are, magic begins to happen. We can begin creating our own businesses. We begin writing books. We begin having more time to spend with our family. So things begin to shift when you begin to really go within and understand the true essence of who you are. Everything else, all of that outside external noise, it just begins to go away. It begins to disappear. You begin to realize the power that you thought that your ego had over you, it doesn't have anymore. You begin to really realize that spirit and ego, all of it is one. There's only one you. There is no duality. There is no disconnection from God. You are truly a divine. So in the Bible, it tells us that we were made in the image of and likeness of God. And we truly are. But how many people believe that we can be that divine, we can be that powerful, we can be that spirit filled? We don't believe it. What we believe is we're not divine, we're not powerful, we're not spirit filled. We're just lowly old people just trying to make it from day to day, because that's what ego tells us. I'm just a teacher, I'm just a mother, I'm just whatever that label is, whatever I've labeled myself, whatever I've allowed society to label me as. That is what we tell ourselves. That's what we believe is the truth, and that is the furthest from the truth. So how do we begin the process of taming the ego? The first thing we have to do is open up to spirit. You are a spiritual being full of love and light, having a human experience. All of this here is not real. It's just an experience. Allow yourself to have the experience that you created for yourself. Realize that whatever your experience looks like to you, it is a product of your creation. This is what you created. So if you don't like how much money you're making, if you don't like the house you're living in, if you don't like the relationships you've built, if you don't like the relationships you're in, all of this is a product of what you created. And being the light person, the light being, the spiritual being that you are, you also have the power to change it. To change it through meditation, through prayer, through inspiration. You have the power to change whatever it is that you created. But we're still so tied to our egos that tell us otherwise. So that's the first thing. You have to open up to spirit. Then you have to release fears, judgment, and limiting belief systems. We walk around with so many limiting belief systems and judgments and fears. We have to release those things. And those are the things that the ego will fight you tooth and nail to hold on to, because it feels like it always has to protect you. But protect you from what? It's protecting you from yourself. So when you think about that logically, does that make sense? I always have to protect myself from what? From myself? That's that duality thing. So you're protecting yourself from yourself. Okay. Trust in the divine, God, Christ, angels, universe to guide you. So a lot of times we pay lip service to truly trusting in all there is. We pay lip service to truly trusting in God. We go to church every Sunday, we pray, we meditate, we say we believe, we say we have faith, and when that's tested, then everything goes by the wayside, or we go right back to our comfort zone and associating everything through ego. So we really have to trust. And that's hard, it's difficult. That's something that we all struggle with. We have to trust that there is a plan, that what we experience is truly what we created, and we must have created it for a reason. We needed this experience for a reason. And I know it's easier said than done, but once again, being conscious will allow you to do that. When you find yourself, being conscious allows you to find yourself to say, you know what, I'm operating in a place of fear. Let me let this fear go and let me just keep moving forward. And really, really trust in all that there is. The next one, stop your identification with labels. Understand who you are behind the labels and layers. So once again, that really requires you to go within. I'm going to say go within probably on this show a billion trillion times, because the only way that you can find your personal truth is to find your personal truth. Nobody can do it for you. Nobody is going to save you. Nobody is going to give you all the answers. Nobody is going to do your work. You have to do your work. So you have to go within and find your personal truth. And only you can do it. Your spouse can't do it. Your children can't do it. Your preacher can't do it. Your teacher can't do it. Nobody can do it but you. So begin to go within and really get in touch with your own emotions, your own feelings, your own wants, your own needs, your own desires, and stop associating it with labels in the outside world. So you truly have to understand who you are behind those labels and layers. Last but not least, and I've said this several times, notice when you're acting from a place of ego or from a place of love. So it just really is about being conscious in your choices, being conscious in your decisions, being conscious in your thinking. You are whatever you think you are. If you think you are love and light, you are love and light. If you think you are a mean and honorary, then you're mean and honorary. If you think you deserve better, then you are whatever you create yourself to be. Okay? So you also have to notice when your creation, whatever it is you created, is not serving you. If you're not happy, if you continue looking or needing validation elsewhere. So those are the things, the little red flags that come up that allow you to really see if you're operating from a place of ego or if you're operating from a place of love. Okay? All right. So I am going to read for you. I still have a little bit more time. So what I want to share with you is this poem, or it's a teaching, and I love this book. If you guys can see this, The Teachings of Lazu, and this is a famous Chinese writer and philosopher who has all of these just wonderful excerpts and wonderful teachings, very small excerpts and very small teachings. I use this a lot as we're centering during some of the yoga classes that I teach. But anyway, I found this passage as it pertains to ego, and I thought that I would share it with you because it really speaks volumes to everything that we just talked about. Okay, and if you have the book, some people have this book though. I know all of my yoga teachers had it. It's chapter 14, page 17. Can you dissolve your ego? Can you abandon the idea of self and other? Can you relinquish the notions of male and female, short and long, life and death? Can you let go of all these dualities and embrace the universe without skepticism or panic? If so, you can reach the heart of the integral oneness. Along the way, avoid thinking of the oneness as unusual, exalted, sublime, transcendental. Because it is the oneness, it is beyond all that. It is simply the direct, essential, and complete truth. So when you are able to do the work, to begin taming your ego, you truly begin opening up to the truth of who you are at a spirit level, the truth of love, the truth of God, the truth of the universe, all by being able to tame the ego. So that is all I have for you all this afternoon. I do want to share with you some wonderful upcoming workshops we have, as I do every week. You can still definitely log onto our website to get a listing of those workshops, journeytowholeness.org, or give us a call at 708-634-3664. So we got some great stuff coming up tonight at 6 o'clock. We are having our first drum circle to bring in the fall equinox with Shannon Harris, who was one of the guests on the show, who does all of our sound therapy, music therapy. He has his own practice of audio pharmacology. So Shannon Harris will be with us tonight at the center, facilitating a beautiful drum circle. So if you've ever wanted the opportunity to come to a drum circle and just do some drumming, some African drumming, it is going to be a fantastic time tonight. So please come out to the center. That's at 6 o'clock tonight. Tomorrow, we also have a new workshop, Egyptian belly dancing. We have Egyptian belly dancing with Khalida Kali, who is the founder and owner of the North African Dance Experience. So she's going to be with us tomorrow at 11 a.m. to do a workshop on Egyptian belly dancing, which also is going to be a lot of fun. So I expect all of you all to come out for that. And then at 2 o'clock, we'll have Shannon again tomorrow at 2 doing his sound therapy and meditation. On Sunday, September 25th, we have a free guided meditation at noon. We talk a lot about meditation on this show, so I strongly encourage you guys to come out for the guided meditation where we practice stillness, and our practitioner, Julia Knickerbocker, is there to guide you through a meditative series. At 1 p.m., we're going to have introduction to Thai body work. I've had so many people who wanted to know what Thai body work is. So now is your perfect opportunity to be introduced to Thai body work, which is a beautiful form of a combination of yoga as well as massage therapy. In fact, we have a video that we'll put up on our Facebook page to give you an illustration of what Thai body work is. That'll encourage you guys to come out to the workshop on Sunday. And then at 2:30, for those who know about Reiki or are interested in becoming a Reiki level 1 practitioner, and Reiki is just really the ability to move energy. At 2:30 on Sunday, we're going to start a series for Reiki Level 1 certification classes. So if you are interested in becoming a Reiki practitioner, this is the perfect opportunity to become certified in Reiki, the Level 1. We're starting that workshop series 2:30 on Sunday. So with that said, I'd like to thank all of you for tuning in to Journey to Wholeness Radio on IntellectualRadio.com, and we will see you next week. Thank you. Much love.